Hi everyone, got another quick design diary for you, and the topic today is goals, or goal cards as they are in the game. And what you see here, this is from a print and play version of the game I was using for some early testing. And these were some of the goal cards. And the idea of this was that each player would have some secret goals that they were specifically going for, got some kind of bonus for. As you can probably see, a lot of these are things you would want to do anyway: get your current professional visibility score up, have publications, earn a high rank at a good school, have a high institutional citizenship score. So these are all things you might be going for anyway, but you might be going for slightly different things than someone else. So, if somebody had this card, they might be going for a 2-year liberal arts school. Somebody who had this one instead might be going for a research university to try to get those kind of bonus achievements. The little medal here was a early icon for achievements. This is before I'd separated out professional and personal. You can see this is like more of a personal one. These are all kind of professional style. And in the initial concept of these, I kind of drew on the mechanic that Gloomhaven uses for its battle goals, which is when you're starting a new scenario or new gameplay, you get dealt a couple of scenario goal cards, which are sort of specific things that you would be trying to achieve during the scenario, even as you're working with the whole rest of the group to try to beat the scenario. So it might be, be the first one to kill this kind of monster, or open a door, or grab at least this much loot. So just different things you might have as sort of a secondary goal. You get dealt a couple cards and could pick one of them that would be your goal, and you got a bonus at the end of the scenario if you completed your goal. So I play a lot of Gloomhaven, and so this was very much in my head, and so I came up with something kind of like this. Had these, and you would get dealt a few of them and could pick a couple to keep. And there was also a mechanic for, like, you could trade in goals if you realized you were on a different track. If you had this card but ended up with a great job at a research university, maybe you'd want to trade it in and try to draw another card. Maybe you get something like this, or something that at least you'd have a potential to achieve. So what I found in playtesting and hearing from some of the people playing is the problem is a lot of these goals were pretty lofty and didn't necessarily give them much guidance on kind of like where to go or how to achieve that. If you get dealt at the beginning of the game, become a full professor at a research university, and you haven't even gone to grad school yet, it's just, you forget about it. That seems a long way away. I don't know what to do to get there right now. I got to get through grad school. I got to find a first job and stuff like that, or be married with at least 3 kids. Well, I'm not even dating anyone yet, so I have to work on my career and also find a partner, then get married, then I'll think about kids. And so a lot of these just seem kind of far off, and they ended up just kind of forgetting about them. So it wasn't super useful. So when discussing the concept of this with people in the playtests, I got some really good feedback that they like the idea of goals, and particularly like the idea of having something kind of specific to go for, giving you some kind of guidance. Hey, in this case, if I had one of these cards again in the middle here, if I had an option for a 2-year school or a liberal arts school or a research school, depending on what card I have, might tell me which is the better one that's going to get me some bonus achievements. So they like that idea, just they seem kind of too far off. So then in making some updates, I kind of retooled this into a different system. So now there's 2 sets of goals. There's these short-term goals and long-term goals. And just to show you some examples, here's some short-term ones. There's some personal ones. So you can see it gives personal achievement. It has to do with childcare. There's another personal one. Here's some professional ones: publish an article or book, submit something for review. And you notice these are all things that you could do pretty quickly. So maybe publish an article or book. You can't do that immediately, but that's something that's in your short-term future. It's not something that's 5 or 6 steps away. Start a relationship or submit something to be published. These are all things that you could do fairly quickly. And then there's also some longer-term goals. So here's some examples of some of those. And what I'll note here is some of these are actual things you would accomplish. So have at least 10 published things total, or be married and get to one of the top 2 levels of your relationship quality. But other things are sort of relative to other players. So this is, again, another way to add a bit of competition and player interaction. And the way that these work now is things kind of go in 5-year cycles. So at the start of a 5-year cycle, which is, 5 turns, each round is a year, you'll deal some of these 5-year goals out. So everyone knows what the 5-year goals are. They're not specific to a player. These are open to everybody. And at the end of that 5-year cycle, then these are evaluated. So in this case, it's not something you personally would achieve, like, okay, I got this, it's done, goal accomplished. It's at the end of that 5 years, you're compared with the other players. Who has the highest professional reputation, then you gain some number of achievements, and you gain more if there's more players you're playing with. Or something like this. If you get to 10 published books articles, you know that you will get these achievements, but that's evaluated again at the end of the 5 years, and anybody in that 5 years who got to 10 total published books and articles would get these achievements. So some of these can go to multiple people. On the short-term side, there's also a couple of these available, but these are kind of grabbed by the first person to do it. So when you deal out your short-term goals, this is face up, it's available to everybody, and first person who submits something for review takes this card, gets that achievement, and you deal a new goal. So the short-term goals are always cycling in and out, but you are in a little bit of a race with other people to get some of them. If there's something like this, there might be two people who are close to publishing something, and if you see this as face up, you want to be published before the other person so that you can take this, because you don't know what the next goal that gets dealt out is. So there are always some short-term goals available, but maybe you're really close to publishing, you're going for this, somebody else grabs it, and the next one that pops up is a personal achievement, and maybe something that you're not close to, or maybe it's something like this where you don't have any kids yet, so you're not very close to spending at least 4 time units on childcare. So that's how the goals are changed. Gives a little more of a kind of race between the players. It did get rid of the secret strategic goal aspect, but again, we're just finding that with the types of goals I had, those were so long-term that they weren't really useful to people, and they weren't really thinking about them at the beginning of the game. And if they had been easier to achieve, more short-term things, then they're not really affecting your long-term strategy in the game either. They're affecting kind of how you start. And so this way, there's always goals people are going for, but they're also changing out. So there might be a couple of 5-year goals up, and you're like, man, I'm not close to getting any of those. Well, okay, maybe that doesn't give you a lot of guidance for right at this moment, but hopefully there's some short-term goals that might be available to you. And you know at the end of the 5 years, those 5-year goals are going to cycle out, and there's going to be different ones coming in, and maybe some of those will be more useful to you. So that's how goals are handled in the current version of the game. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.